I mean, how many times have you heard Etta James do it last?
Oh
Or
God.
Louis Armstrong, It's a Wonderful World. I mean, there's certain songs that even though they work, you sort of want to go, isn't there more music than this?
Well, well, how do you do, Buckaroos? This is Joe Layton from Cowboys and Indians magazine, and it is my great pleasure today to be speaking with Rick Clark, who is the music supervisor on, well, I'll just go ahead and say it, my favorite show on TV right now, Dark Winds. And Rick, this is kind of a reunion between you and showrunner John Worth, who collaborated on another one of my favorites, another CNI reader favorite, Hell on Wheels, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I love working with John. We have a good rhythm.
When you were brought in, okay, it's 1971. Uh,
Mhm.
and I assume that, like me, you're a stickler for, okay, I'm not going out of, I mean, I may be able to slip in a song earlier than 71, but I can't do anything later.
I tried as hard as I could to stick to 71 and or before. And you know, we're trying to sort of create um a very clear sense that this is from an era, that this drama, is an early 70s, 71 kind of drama. Because, when you look at the setting, there are really no markers that let you know it's that era. I mean, the reservation basically looks like the same when the dinosaurs roamed, and I sort of joked that you know the a lot of the people and the cars they drove, they look not much different than the people down the street from me here in Middle Tennessee. So the music had to especially do a kind of heavy lifting.
Mhm.
So I went after songs that were not just purely era, but of the non-native songs that were sort of especially doing the heavy era lifting. Um, I didn't want horns. I didn't want slick R&B or soul productions or real slick pop music production. I wanted there to be an organic element to the music, even if it was a rock band. I wanted it to feel like you wouldn't be listening to it and going, "Oh, that's Memphis soul music," or "That's Detroit," or Philly soul, or Memphis blues. And it's sort of funny because as you've heard already in the show, there's Creedence Clearwater Revival, and there's David Crosby, and there's artists like that, Greg Allman, and they all sort of have a kind of feel like they're earthy. They feel organic.
At what point do you come into the equation? Do you get a look at the scripts ahead of time and you start thinking about matching music to scenes, or do they give you a
Totally.
rough cut of the episode and say, put the music in there, please, or what?
Yeah, this is the way John and I work is I get I get the very first script drafts, and I get every iteration after that. And I also get access to what is called the dailies.
Mhm.
And the dailies are basically every minute of everything that has been shot that day, including all the gaffes and everything. You're, for me, getting to see, even though it's not a final cut, the setting of where things are as they will, likely end up. That helps me also in choosing music.
Look, like I say, I love the show. The music you select is a big part of why I love the show. I mean, I love the fact that, I'm watching Joe Lepon work on his motorcycle, and suddenly I hear the Rolling Stones, you know, and that's wonderful. But have there been times when you've been told point blank, Look, Rick, we can get that song, but we'll have no money left for any songs.
I've done this enough that I usually have a pretty good idea, you know, where the money is going to fall. And in certain cases, you know, I get blown out of the water because we just can't afford it.
Mhm,
But that's something that I have to take care of myself.
mhm,
And then in this particular case, through a number of kind of ways of being inventive and also having quite a few people, labels, publishers, and especially artists who were not just fans of the show, but were fans of the idea of the show, you know. And so it was easy to get some people to sign on just enthusiastically. I will say that the first person I reached out to um, for a song was Buffy St. Marie.
mhm.
And Buffy was way into this. We did a great Zoom call, and she just sort of blessed this and said, "This is something that I'm happy to be a part of." And at the same time that this was happening, I was doing a lot of research for Navajo music, specifically, you know, and then casting a little wider to Native, but I tried to keep it as close to legitimately being right in the Navajo community in that period of time.
Mhm.
The thing that was a challenge was that there was so little music that, you know, exists from that time unless it is purely chanting to drums or flutes or things like that. There's not there as far as like singer songwriters or rock bands from that era. Uh, it's close to non-existent. But hunting that down was just who owned what was. I mean, I spent months and just was unable to crack that code. There were some other artists that you know I ended up using that were not period, but the style of music that they did was close enough in spirit to not pull you away from the authenticity of the drama's narrative. Floyd Red Crow Westerman. Um, I did get a hold of his widow, and she was able to help me push through a song that was real important at the time called BIA. Um, you know, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, I mean, and administration. And it was, that was a real key song. That was in episode one. And some people actually pointed it out, like they were real happy to hear that song. And that made me happy. Um, I was sort of given a direction early on, I guess, from certain Navajo in the writers' room that they absolutely did not want Indian drums and they did not want Indian flute. And, you know, so that sort of, you know, that was a lens I had to jump through a little bit. Episode 5. That episode opens up with, you remember the old song Lollipop?
Oh yes. Oh yes.
That's the scene where Colton, our blonde guy, is a child and he's bicycling to his family's house. And the scene that is in there is going to explain a number of things that have been hinted at earlier in the show.
Mm.
And then some of the other songs I used on that episode. Um, there's a song by Free called Mr. Big.
Mhm.
that plays out of the radio in the jail. And there is an eclipse that happens in the next episode. And we used a song called Northern Sky by Nick Drake, and that worked real nicely. And then Chi is shadowing Rosemary Vines. And while he's in the car listening, he's listening to Fleetwood Mac. And it's the original version of Black Magic Woman, because a lot of people don't realize that it wasn't originally a Santana song. It was originally a Fleetwood Mac song written by the guitar player at the time, Peter Green. And that works real well in that scene. In the final episode, we have a scene where Lee Porn is with his dad driving through the reservation, and there's sort of an aerial shot. It sort of goes over the reservation. And the Who song from Who's Next, Love Ain't for Keeping, is playing then. And it sounds great there. It really works really nicely. And then there's a scene where Chi is rummaging through Rosemary Vine's purse. And there's a Derek and the Dominoes song, actually sort of fairly rare. Most people who know Derek and the Dominoes wouldn't know it unless they were just big Derek and the Dominoes fans or Clapton.
Those deep cuts.
It's a deep cut, but it's called Got to Get Better in a Little While. It wasn't on the Layla album, but it was a studio cut that got mixed, that didn't end up on the album. And it works really well in that scene. And then there's a scene where Rosemary Vines hunts Chi down in the trading post. This is a real obscure song, but it's a band called Anduella, and it's a song called I Got a Woman. And then the next 5 songs is really a knockout stretch of great stuff. Lee Porn is, he finds the buckle. We know that he found the buckle that was his son's belt buckle. And he's put 2 and 2 together, realizes he's been murdered. And he has sort of a moment of coming to terms with it. And what he does is he melts the metal into a mold. And it's sort of a beautiful scene, and it's a real heartfelt scene. And it's the Bob Dylan song, Tomorrow is a Long Time. And it's like every lyric, it's so dialed in. It's really a magical moment. I can't say enough about what it is like working with John Worth and Peter Chomsky, who's the producer and post that I've worked with on Hell on Wheels and on this show. These guys believe in me. They support me. I feel like I can throw just about anything out there, and no one takes anything personally. It's just sort of like, I like this, I don't like this, but it's just sort of, it's just a beautiful working relationship.
But have there been times when you wanted to use a song and then you just thought, no, that's too on the nose. That's
Totally. In fact, it was like a running joke with me and the people who were in my office at the time when I was doing Hell on Wheels. And it seemed like every day I was getting pitched a song that was perfect for the show, and it was about a train. And it was like, the show already is about the laying of this railroad.
Yeah.
I don't want songs about a railroad or a train. I want something that is filling in the blanks elsewhere to make the experience more cohesive, expand it. I wasn't worried about having anything really on the nose on this show. I wasn't going to do anything stupid like Indian Giver or, songs like, I mean, it's like, come
Cherokee
on.
Nation. Wait, no.
Yeah, right. That's your favorite song, right?
Yeah.
John and I did invite Zahn into the proverbial room in terms of some of his uh, feedback for native tracks.
Hmm.
Probably the most obvious one was there was on episode 3, there was an artist named Joe Rainey, who I happened to fall in love with his album maybe about 4 or 5 months before I was called into the show. And it was Native American electronica. But the Joe Rainey song in episode 3 that we used was the one where Emma is going from the Hogan after having delivered a child.
Yes.
And she is carrying this grief, this, unfathomable grief that, she knows now that her son was murdered. So she's walking to her pickup truck, and there's this very meditative piece of music. And it's a native voice singing to this just beautifully somber piano thing. And that's Joe Rainey. And the piece of music is CH chapter, like a CH 1222 is the name of the piece. And Zahn was real sort of like our backup sounding board for some of the native stuff.
When there is season 3, I hope sometime one character will turn on the radio and I'll hear a radio commercial for RC Cola. You every so often there's a specific reference to RC Cola in the show, and usually poor Leaphorn Joe it goes to the refrigerator and somebody's drunk his RC Cola.
You know what? I really love the challenge, and I promise you that I will leave no stone unturned until I find a proper RC Cola ad. Okay.
Okay. So
No, that's the stuff that I love. Brother, I love it. If there's anything else you say, Rick, while you're at it, I love a challenge. I'll do it. I will go to the mat and see if I can find it. But I love this RC Cola.
well, thanks a lot, Rick. I really appreciate it, and hang in there and keep picking that good music.
Back when we knew it was good, right?
That's right. That's right. We didn't need those FM radios. We went around our AM radios, and
That's right.